Stage E, having a bag. Every adventurer needs a bag with items in it, be it money, a sword, a shield, I don't know, a health potion, whatever you deem is necessary in your world. In this little part of the guide, we're going to introduce a torch, and the player will have a torch that that might aid them in their journey. There will be some other things you can add. You can add more or less whatever you want. We're going to take our world from the previous stage that's got choices, a direction map for 3 locations, and it's going to, it doesn't need any more locations than 3 at the moment. In fact, we're just going to use this one as an example. We're going to use lists again. In the previous part of the guide, we used lists to do this. We said the options were the direction that you could go, and we did the while loop that kept on repeating the instruction until the person chose one of the options, north, east, or south, for example. And then it decided which direction to go. And obviously it was never, like we said last time, you're never able to get to the bit that says there's something wrong with my game, because you shouldn't be able to do that in the first place. So you'll notice that the game bag is the only bit of code at the top that's defined, or it appears outside of any definition. You can see that it's not inside show bag, which is the new one. It's not inside location A because it's not indented. That's all of location A there. Not inside location B, C, win or lose. It's on the far left, just like the bit that says welcome to my adventure game, the first line of code, and the call to location A that says run location A code. That means that this is global. And what that means is that any part of your program can refer to GameBag and do things with it. It exists in all locations. It's actually in your pocket. But it happens to be the first line of code that actually does something in your game. It happens before welcome to my adventure game, because it's not a definition. It is a list being assigned globally. So this is saying an empty list, in other words, is being put into the variable game bag. So let's look at this little procedure here and explain what's going on. When you call showbag, when you run showbag, anywhere you like to put it, in fact, it's being called. You're gonna call it at the start of every location. So you can see showbag is being called here at location A. So there's a load of text about the ruined castle, blah, 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 blah. And then it says your bag is empty. So why does it say your bag is empty? Well, it happens because of this bit under the bit that says new code here. Don't lose this. Show bag is called. Notice case sensitive, show bag with a capital B. And this is what it's asking to run. It's saying, here's show bag. All right. Why did the text your bag is empty appear? Well, because your bag is empty, actually. And that happens because we've got an if statement here that says if the len of the game bag, I'll write a little comment in there to show what that means. Len of something means how long it is, or length. It's short for length. So the len of x would say how long is the thing x. And you can do it on strings. You can find out the length of strings, and you can do the length of lists. Currently, the list has a grand fat 0 elements inside it, so obviously the length of it is 0. So it's saying, does the bag have anything in it? And it's saying, well, if it doesn't have anything in it, if its length is 0, print your bag is empty. Otherwise, do all of this indented stuff. Well, let's see what it says. It will say, in your bag you have, the reason this little end bit is there is actually so that it all appears on one line. By default, end is actually a hidden variable that is normally written there. And by default, end is set to, the reason that your print commands go on new lines is because there's a secret \n hidden in there on the end variable. If you don't have it, or you set it manually to an empty string, which is what you're doing there, all the little bag items will end up on one line. Count is 0. While count is less than the length of the game bag, let's say we had 5 things in there. Let's say we had a flask. Let's say we had, let's just put 2 things because it's easier. What else might I have in a sword? The adventurer might start with those things. If we did it now, it'll say in your bag you have, while count is less than the len of game bag, or what's the length of that? Well, it's 2. There are 2 things in there now. While count is 0, so while 0 is less than 2, well, 0 is less than 2, it'll print this. So let's see if we can read what that says. That says, game bag at position count, and then obviously put a little space after it instead of a \n. So game bag at position count. Well, count is 0, so game bag at position 0 is the first thing it prints. And guess what's at game bag at position 0? We've just done Pythonic lists, so game bag at position 0 is a Flask. Count is count plus 1. So sorry, it's just printed Flask, by the way. That's what that bit's done. Adds 1 to the counter. The counter is no longer 0, it becomes 1. And we're in a while loop, just like we were in a while loop for stage D. And you can see in stage E, counts become 1, and it prints the next element. So well, before it does that, it checks, is 1 less than the length of the game bag? Well, yes, 1 is less than 2. And it prints game bag at position 1, which is the next element, which is a sword. So it's going to just print out your elements in your bag, and adds 1 to the counter. And while 2 is less than 2, well, no, 2 is not less than 2. The while loop finishes and it prints an empty line. Let's try running that actually with the little modification. Let's run the game. I've got your bag. Oh, sorry, I've got to crash that and start it again. Run game. I had to press Control-C to end the game. In your bag, you have Flask, sword. So you can see those are the elements that I've got in there. So let's just leave it with, I can leave it with a Flask and a sword. Let's see how that gets used later in the program. At the moment, this is me picking something up. Where are we? We're in location A. You see a torch on the floor. Do you pick it up? That's this bit here. Do you pick it up? Why, yes or yes? So any of those will be acceptable. Let's say yes. Let's press enter. Yes. Well, it would be nice if it said you pick up the torch. That would be a nice thing. So we'll see if we can add that to it. Choice is input, so that's me typing yes. If choice in options, so if the choice I put, which was yes, was in options, it did gamebag.append torch. Might be nice at that point to say print you pick up the torch. Nice to add that to the player. And the bag will actually have the torch added to it. So if we now choose a different direction, let's choose somewhere that, which way do I want to go? What are my directions that I can go? I can go, which way do I want to go? I can go north, east or south. I don't know. I want one that actually has a bag printing in it. I'll go to location B, which is north. Does location print the bag? Yes, it does. So let's say I will go north, which should take me to location B. You're in the Great Hall. Yep, I am. In your bag, you have Flask, sword, and torch. There's the torch from previously. You use your torch to see another door to the west. Which way do you want to go? And that's happening because of this. Use your torch to see another door to the west. Which way do you want to go? Options are south and west. And you can see this is all exactly the same code as we want from before. The only mod I would make to this myself is that having the torch means I can see another door to the west. However, it doesn't actually change anything about my options currently. So the modification I might make to location B is if we have the torch, our options might be south and west. So we could say, we'll put that as part of that being true. Otherwise, I think possibly my options are only south. That potentially would make a little bit more sense. Now we can delete line 71 and we end up with location B looking a bit more like that. So we show the bag, which is Flask, sword and torch. And if we have a torch in our game bag, which we do because we have the torch there, you use your torch and see another door to the west. That makes our options in location B south or west. Otherwise, our options are just south. Then you ask the question outside the if statement, which way do I want to go? And what that should mean is, well, you can only go west if you have the torch, which means you can only win if you have a torch, which is a nice little way of using an item in your bag to limit what ways you can go forward. And that's how we can implement using the bag in the game. You can interact with characters, you can pick things up, you can win items, you could play a game in a zone. There's lots of different extensions you could do on your little journey.